What goes into bringing automation into a distribution center? How do you handle the change? How do you plan to have a successful implementation? I recently got to visit the Toyota Material Handling headquarters in Columbus, Indiana, where they have undergone a transformation of their parts distribution center, a project that came together with efforts from the Toyota team, Bastion Solutions, and AutoStore. So let's dive in as I get the perspectives from all three companies involved in this special episode of The New Warehouse.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey guys, it's Kevin, and I'm here at the Toyota Material Handling headquarters in Indiana. I'm here for a special event to see the new parts distribution center, and I'm going to be joined by Brett Bruin, who has a big impact on that parts distribution center here. He's the vice president of aftermarket and advanced services. So big part, instrumental in this project here where they've implemented an AutoStore solution and been able to really make their existing operation more utilized from a space perspective and also more efficient overall. So I guess, Brett, why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about kind of what your division does and what the parts distribution center is all about.
Sure. Our division is really, the aftermarket is about supporting the customers and the trucks that are in the field with parts availability out of our Columbus Parts Distribution Center and then our dealer network. PDC is about 172,000 square feet here, and we service over 50 dealers across North America.
All right, great. And so a lot of parts going out there. I think I heard earlier today about $1 million worth of parts going out a day.
$1 million a day.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's a lot of parts moving. So tell us a little bit about kind of the project itself, I guess, and maybe some of the challenges, or what were you looking at specifically that led up to implementing and going after this project?
Yeah, it was really around the COVID time when the industry really took off. The demand was really high, and we started running into the really similar challenges that a lot of our customers do around space utilization, manpower, productivity. At the same time in 22, coming out of that, we had introduced 22 new electric products, new models that our dealers had never had to sell before, and an investment in a heavy-duty business. So the number of SKUs really exploded during that time, topped off with the industry demand. And so with those challenges, we really couldn't keep up just doing it in the manual process that we'd done it before. So we started working with Bastion Solutions to identify the best solution for automating, introducing automation, and AutoStore was the clear choice for us.
So this gives us the customer perspective and what their need is. Now, enter the consulting and integrator partner, Bastion Solutions, which is also a Toyota company. Will Mansard of Bastion explains to us how this project came to fruition and how Bastion went about planning for success.
These projects, they always have a life of their own, and it's been several years in the making. So we've been partnering with Toyota Material Handling, in this case, for the past 5 years, just thinking about how they transform the sites. There have been several studies, and this project has been talked about for several years. And we started to get serious with these conversations a couple of years ago. And so we always love to really take a data-driven approach to the systems that we design and integrate. And so that's kind of first things first is our consulting group is going to get in, and they're going to do lots of data analysis to start to size the system, select technologies, and those kind of things. Okay. So that's where it all started. And in this case, Toyota had a very traditional manual picking process. And they were looking to do a few things, in their vision of elevating excellence. They want to harness automation, and that's what we help our clients just kind of uncover in terms of what they can do with automation to improve productivities, better utilize the space they have in the building. And so they were picking very manually prior to the implementation of AutoStore and the system that we installed. And they wanted a robust, reliable system. They wanted to be able to store parts in a very dense footprint. And so we were, able to transform what that operation looks like through the partnership with their team over several months of detailed engineering and analysis and conversation and site visits and all those kinds of things to develop what we think is just a tremendous system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can see kind of how it's changed the distribution center there a little bit. And I think it was interesting. We just took the tour prior to this, right? And I got to see it. And one of the things they said was, it's so quiet now, right? People question, like, are people actually working? And they're working, but in a much more efficient way, right? Which lends to that quietness. So I guess tell us a little bit about maybe what was the ultimate kind of overall challenge that Toyota was trying to solve or future-proof themselves with by doing this solution?
Yeah, Toyota's goal is they have a 5-year vision to be able to use ground delivery to reach 98% of their customers in the United States, all from this Columbus, Indiana facility, which is really incredible. And so in order to do that, you got to have a couple things. You got to have a very reliable system, but you got to have speed. And so that was really first and foremost, how do we improve the productivity of the operation? And so they are now picking at 3 times the speed of what they picked traditionally.
Oh, wow.
They're able to store the parts within the AutoStore. They're able to store them in about a third of the space as well. And so really what we've been able to do is just consolidate that picking operation. Prior to implementing this system, their warehouse associates were walking up to 10 miles a day. And now the most walking they're doing is probably like, to the parking lot and back.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end of the shift. And so it's really been all about speed and getting parts in a reliable manner to their customers within, like I said, that vision of within next day over the next 5 years.
Now we understand what the end goal is. Toyota has the desire to reach 98% of their customers in the U.S. with a next day service level by 2030. As Brett from Toyota explains here, this is one step in a series of phases to achieve this goal.
This was really phase one. We needed to increase our velocity out of this facility while we planned for phase 2 and phase 3. So phase 2 would be opening up more regional distribution centers. So we've identified 5 general markets that we think we should have regional distribution in. And then as we get closer to 2030, the idea of integrating our parts system with our dealers' parts system would be step 3, really to give us and our dealers, everybody have full visibility to what's here in Columbus, what's at the dealership in Dallas, what's at the dealership in Boston, and being able to move that inventory around and really optimize it and get it to the customer as fast as possible.
With the overarching goal of reaching customers with next day service by 2030, there are additional goals that come as a benefit to this optimization of their parts distribution center. But before we get into the impact of this project on their parts distribution center, let's get some information from AutoStore on what their system is all about from Joe Eli of AutoStore.
So AutoStore is a goods-to-person ASRS system. So the concept is we're using a cubic storage principle to have robots retrieve bins from within the system and present them to associates or operators, which is dramatically decreasing things like walking times in warehouses, walking around searching for different items, maybe finding the wrong item or being less efficient. And the AutoStore principle of bins stacked on one another actually is a great savings as far as floor space is concerned. So I think kind of how we relate to the project that we're here seeing today, this was a brownfield or an existing facility that Toyota's been operating. And what they were allowed to do is triple their storage inside of this facility, allowing them to stay in it and actually bring in other processes that support their other manufacturing environments in the space that they recovered by putting their items into the AutoStore.
Joe has a great point about the decision-making process of putting in a system like this for an existing operation. He mentions that the decision was made to install this in a brownfield setup, meaning an existing operation versus a brand new facility, otherwise known as a greenfield operation. Brett explains to us why this decision was made and how they went about implementing the system in the middle of a working operation. Tell us a little bit about kind of the decision-making process there to, I guess, stick with the existing building versus maybe building a fresh building to try and do some automation in a brownfield versus the greenfield.
Yeah, we did. We also looked at doing a greenfield start as well, and just looked at the proximity of where the parts distribution center is on our campus existing, and what we needed. The ability for AutoStore to expand even beyond what we have today was a key piece that we thought we can continue using the space that we have there. But really, I like the idea of staying on campus.
Yeah.
It's a pretty plain looking building from the outside, but I think you saw today there's
Oh,
quite
yeah.
a bit of technology on the inside of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an interesting thing to point out there, because I think a lot of people, sometimes they think, oh, we're going to do this automation and all this stuff. We need to start fresh in a sense, right? But I think you guys were able to accomplish that and not shut down operations, right? So tell us a little bit about the planning from Toyota's perspective that went into that to be able to continue to fulfill orders all while taking out your existing storage solutions and putting in the new AutoStore solution that wasn't up and running yet, and still being able to continue operation.
I give a lot of credit to our warehouse leadership and our associates out there. I say it's very similar to if a restaurant decided to remodel their kitchen but stay open the entire time.
Yeah.
And that's really what the group out there did. Never missed an order through that year-long construction. We were
Nice.
constantly moving existing racking to other areas of the warehouse and changing the processes and changing their locations almost on a weekly basis as we were going through this transformation. The team was great about that. We learned some things along the way that we could eliminate some waste in there that we had prior. And they just really, they were flexible, and they've persevered through that. And you can really see the difference on the associates. Before, our manual process was very effective, but our associates, it was hard work. A lot of them that were doing some of the picking were walking upwards of 10 miles a day doing the picking, and
Wow.
all of that's been eliminated now, where the product is now being brought to them. So tremendous, just a better quality of a work experience for those associates.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hope you're enjoying this episode. Do you want more warehouse content delivered to your inbox? Sign up for our new email series called Warehouse Wisdom Wednesday to get an educational series of emails on warehouse basics delivered directly to you every Wednesday morning. Find the sign up link in the show notes. So for Toyota, it wasn't just about what makes sense from a project perspective, but it was also about keeping that culture together, as Brett mentions, wanting to stay on the Toyota Material Handling campus, which I will say is very nice. Now, how does Bastian look at approaching a brownfield project, and what value can they bring to a project like this?
Certainly one of the value propositions that we like to bring to the table for our customers is how can we enable you to better utilize the space you have? Traditionally, with traditional picking and distribution operations, it's a lot of you're picking on the ground level, you're not really utilizing that space and that cube of the warehouse.
Yeah.
And so that's really, one of the core values of AutoStore is that density of storage. And so certainly makes things a little bit more complex when you're working around a live operation. This kind of shows you through, the right level of thought and planning with a great customer like Toyota that we can build this brand new system, kind of transform their operation, all while they're still serving all of their customers. They have the existing SLAs, and we're just over here on the other side of the warehouse building this automated solution and able to do all of the testing. And there's a lot of remote testing that happens, but then we're on site for several months testing, making sure that all of our interfaces are working, where our Exacta software system is talking to the warehouse management system, orders are flowing between the systems. And then, once we're ready, then we go live and just slowly transition that manual operation into the new system. So we're slowly adding inventory into the AutoStore and then ramping up over time to where, it's 100% all in, and we're fulfilling all their customer orders from the system.
Automation can certainly help to increase the efficiency of your operation and help to get you closer to goals like next day delivery for the majority of your customers. But what about the human element? Brett takes pride in how they were able to include their employees in this project, which he explains here.
You know, the natural human reaction to hearing automation is you're going to be eliminating jobs. And that's really just not a Toyota core value. We looked at this our goal was to do the same amount of work or more with less manpower, but not to allow those people to leave the operation. That there are things that we could do for our customers that we're not doing today, or new processes or new products to be made that require experienced manpower. And so we don't want anyone to be let go through that period. And so we've retained all of those associates. And I think, you know, it takes a while for them to see it come through and you know, you get to the end and they say, wow, you know, none of us were let go. Some of us are doing different jobs than we used to do before. Right. But, you know, Toyota was good to their word. And, you know, this is a much better facility, a much better environment to work in today after the automation than it was before.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic thing to be able to do that and address some of that skepticism and be able to retain those workers, but, you know, shift them around, maybe upskill them a little bit or something of that nature. So I guess what would be your advice for like a company that's maybe looking to do some automation project like this, similar? How do you kind of address some of those employees' concerns, or how do you put that into your planning of the project overall?
Yeah, well, we tried to allow them to have a voice in the project. Even if they weren't at a leadership level, we shared on a monthly basis as we were starting to lay out the design with Bastian. We sought their input. You're in the process every day. You're receiving or you're shipping or you're picking or you're doing the returns. Tell us, is this the right place in the warehouse? Or what would this, if it was laid out like this, how would that work for you? And we had a tremendous amount of feedback from them because, again, they are the experts. They're doing the process every day. So allowing them to have that type of buy-in and that type of input really helped along the way.
Without a doubt, humans are still quintessential to an operation and need to be highly considered even when automation is involved. This is a great note from Brett on how to incorporate them into the project and make sure they understand what is happening. So we've discussed the hardware side with AutoStore and the human side that Toyota was very thoughtful in keeping involved. But what about on the system side that you can't necessarily see? How do they get the 28 robots that are zooming around on top of the AutoStore to communicate and make sure orders flow into and out of that AutoStore system?
It's lots and lots of conversations and great engagement between our customer's IT team and then our IT team as well. And so when we deploy a system like this, it's a very cross-functional team. And we've got design engineers, we have controls engineers, we have software engineers, we have project managers. So we really have a cross-functional team, and everybody has kind of their own part of the project. And IT is, you know, one of the most important parts because the automation is great, but if the IT running it isn't working, you've got gaps in interfaces, and you've got bugs and those kind of things, then there are going to be problems. So yeah, it's a several-month process. We really start the whole engineering phase of the project through what we call functional specifications. And in those documents, we're defining down to the detail what the software is going to do through the entire operation, what all the touch points are. And our customer, Toyota, is in lots of workshops with us. I mean, these are meetings that are happening over several months. And we develop what really that IT design the system is. And then we go back and we'll get into development of the software that we need to enable that, lots of remote testing, and then eventually leading up to what we call our on-site, you know, readiness testing, essentially. And that's where us and Toyota are on site for several weeks. And we're just kind of mocking up, kind of going through what a day in the life would look like, testing with fake orders, so to speak. You know, as orders flow in, and we're going to act like we're picking those orders, and we're just trying to work out all the kinks to make sure that when we go live, we're 100%, you know, all in, we're good to go, everybody's happy, and we're not going to have any interruptions when it comes to actually picking production customer orders.
With the system now in place and their parts distribution center on its way to delivering next day orders to their customers, how does Toyota expand on their AutoStore solution? Joe from AutoStore tells us how you can go about expanding one of their systems?
AutoStore, it's multifaceted on how you can increase the system. So basic system extensions can be adding robots or adding workstations, and that can be done while the system is running. With things like the ports, which are the workstations the operators or associates are picking from or putting to, we can pre-plan those and we actually frame them up. So all the aluminum infrastructure work is done in advance. And when you need to add something in a later year, it's a matter of just really installing the port or workstation in a matter of hours. And then they have the ability to scale their throughput out of that. We also see many customers that will build the grid to meet their 5-year plan or 10-year plan and then continue to fill it logically every year with the amount of storage or bins that they need to reach those goals.
Yeah.
So they're kind of offsetting some of their investments in a nice way that allows them to build for today and scale for tomorrow. And I think the far end of this, and this is also a differentiator for AutoStore, is the ease of flexibility or the ease and flexibility of how we can extend the system. So we can actually grow the size of the aluminum grid while your current operation remains in use. So basically, we build a system right beside the existing one, and then over the course of a few hours, when we do the cutover with our top track, which is where the robots drive, that's what would be the only shutdown. So we do that on a planned shift change or weekend time frame, and then Monday morning when everyone comes back in, bins are going into the new storage locations. Robots are traversing the entire grid, and I think that's something that, again, based on our very flexible grid-based design, is different when you look at AutoStore versus aisle-based technologies, for example, that are kind of historical in the ASRS marketplace.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, minimal disruption, right? I mean, is ideal for any operation. I don't think any ops manager wants to hear the word disruption, right? Or
that's what makes AutoStore really it is flexible, but it's because of the approach, like we even talked about on the tour, where AutoStore can build around building columns. We can fit into alcoves. We can bridge over items. If you had an office in the middle of your warehouse and you wanted to have it encased in an AutoStore or a picking tunnel running through the AutoStore, those are very typical kind of features you'd see when you go through many AutoStore sites.
The flexibility of AutoStore, as Joe discussed, can certainly allow for further expansion when Toyota needs it. But what do the next phases of getting to that 2030 goal look like for Brett and Toyota?
This was really phase one. We needed to increase our velocity out of this facility while we plan for phase two and phase three. So phase two would be opening up more regional distribution centers. So we've identified 5 general markets that we think we should have regional distribution in. And then as we get closer to 2030, the idea of integrating our parts system with our dealers' parts system would be step 3, really to give us and our dealers, everybody have full visibility to what's here in Columbus, what's at the dealership in Dallas, what's at the dealership in Boston, and being able to move that inventory around and really optimize it and get it to the customer as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for those regional distribution centers, the 5 regions you identified, I mean, is this kind of now going to be the blueprint in a sense for that? Will you see like auto stores there also, or what's the plan?
We are exploring that. Yeah, we're exploring the idea of that. Those DCs will be a little bit smaller than this, and so we're talking to Bastian and Auto Store about, is there an alternative to this, or maybe a smaller version of Auto Store that would be more appropriate, say in a 25 or 50,000 square foot facility versus 172,000.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. And now, how do you see, I guess, from a parts perspective, right? I mean, you're focused on that part of the business. So, how do you see kind of the demand and what people are looking for from like their existing fleets, and how are you continuing to evolve to be able to service that?
One of the big changes is the market moving from traditionally IC and continuing to be more to the electric. That's generally smaller parts, which fits well with Auto Store. And really the biggest demand from the customers is maybe less about the product and more about the delivery. I mean, Amazon changed the expectation of all
definitely.
North American consumers, and that's really no different for our customers from a business-to-business standpoint. Today we kind of target second-day delivery, but customers are going to demand next-day delivery, same-day delivery at some point. And so that's really where we've got to focus on is getting the parts closer to the customer.
It'll be great to follow along and see how Toyota Material Handling gets to this service level for their customers and how that distribution strategy unfolds. a model that many other companies will most likely also be pursuing or are already trying to accomplish as well. So we heard all about this project, and obviously a very special project for Toyota, but a milestone for Bastian Solutions as well. This was actually their 100th AutoStore installation, and Will tells us what this means for Bastian.
We're very proud of it. We're very proud of the partnership that we have with AutoStore. It's been 11 years now since we started down that path with AutoStore, and really they just have such a tremendous technology. So many of our customers have adopted it and loved it and expanded it and done it more than once. So just very grateful for for a partner like AutoStore, and then a great customer in this case with Toyota, and that we're able to celebrate such an important milestone in our 100th project.
Yeah.
And, it's really just kind of a testament to, great things can happen when you got a good team around you, and just, again, blessed to have such good partners and, a customer in this case that everybody's, coming to work every day doing their best and, getting through all the details before we have a system that goes live. And we just continue to have great success with AutoStore. We look forward to another 100 over the next several years.
So great stuff all around on this project, and congratulations to Toyota Material Handling, Bastian Solutions, and AutoStore on this fantastic project. I hope you enjoyed this inside look at what goes into an automation project and the thought process behind implementing an AutoStore. For more information on Toyota Material Handling, AutoStore, and Bastian Solutions, find their links in the show notes or head to thenewwarehouse.com. Enjoyed this episode? Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and for more content from the New Warehouse, find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Links to subscribe can be found in the show notes, and for everything The New Warehouse, head to thenewwarehouse.com.